Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Karin Helmstedt.
Welcome to our highlights edition, which this time around includes the following topics. Mob top. Italian cat with shady past enters the fashion mainstream. Starman. Perry Rhodan has been exploring the cosmos for 50 years. And cool shots. Amateur photographers discover Berlin's secret places. Gerhard Richter is one of Germany's most celebrated contemporary artists, and he usually prefers to let his art speak for itself. But filmmaker Corinna Belz has managed, against all odds, to win his trust and make a documentary about his work. Well, the result is a very unusual film, and certainly not one for action fans, but fans of Gerhard Richter himself will appreciate this up-close brush with the master.
Gerhard Richter uses a tool he invented himself to spread the paint, then scratch it off and create new structures. The method is always the same. Chance is part of the creative process.
Was ist das?
Somehow, the tools do what they want. I would have done it differently. More colorful.
Richter works alone. So the presence of a camera team for 5 months was an experiment for him too. He gave director Corinna Belz a free hand under one condition, that he could see the movie before its premiere in Cologne. What do you think of the film?
Good.
What makes it so special?
Because it's so boring. It's so quiet and unassuming. It's great.
What attracted you to making this film?
It's similar to exhibitions. You want to show what you do.
Corinna Belz shot the film at irregular intervals for a few hours at a time. But that was almost too much for the artist. Her dogged yet unintrusive style resulted in some unique insights.
The critical way he looks at his pictures, and looking at his pictures with him, that's what I found the most interesting.
The film shows Gerhard Richter painting a series of abstract works in 2009 for a New York exhibition. He works on more than one picture at once and is constantly questioning them. It can take weeks before he's happy with the result. He once said it was impossible to talk about the act of painting. So the movie gets by with almost no commentary about the artistic process.
We had conversations because we were there. We didn't pretend that we weren't, and he didn't do that either. That's a good way of dealing with it.
Representational or abstract, grey or colourful, abrupt changes in style are part of Richter's stylistic vocabulary. He has exhibited at the world's most prestigious museums, and his works fetch the highest prices of any German living artist. His paintings can sell for millions of euros at auction. His creative reclusiveness is what distinguishes him from other contemporary artists. The film documents times of crisis as well.
It won't work.
It won't work?
Well, I can't use that. It would be wrong.
What would happen if you did use that on the painting?
Then it would be ruined. Exaggerated if I put that on it.
Lacking inspiration?
Sure, that wouldn't be the problem, but...
Richter almost cancelled the film because the camera irritated him, but the director kept returning to the studio, which is usually only open to Richter's creative assistants.
Will they be painted over?
Yes, if they don't make the grade. They have to wait here. In a few weeks it'll be okay. They'll have made it.
Yes, put it on the wall, whether it gets painted over or not.
In the documentary, Richter remarks he'll quit once there's nothing left to do. Over the course of the 90-minute film, Corinna Belz shows the process Gerhard Richter goes through before a work is ready to be shown.
She managed to capture the mood well over time. She can only show it in a shortened version. But it's very quiet, very peaceful, and it moves very slowly.
What impressed you most?
My boss's openness and his humor.
He has a special quality in that he shows this stillness which is inherent in painting and which sometimes must surround a painting. I like that.
Gerhard Richter painting provides a unique glimpse into the creative mind of one of the world's top contemporary artists.
Well, if you want to get ahead this season, get a hat, or rather a Sicilian cap, much like those worn by the young Italians in Francis Ford Coppola's classic film The Godfather. Well, funnily enough, this kind of a cap is called a Coppola in Sicily, and while it originated in England in the 18th century, it was widely worn in Sicily by workers and later often associated with mafia connections. But one Sicilian firm is now reclaiming the Coppola for law-abiding folk.
Sicilian women are notoriously formidable, so the male-dominated local textile industry had better watch out. These ladies are the force behind La Coppola Storta, which translates as the sideways cap. They've taken a traditional Sicilian accessory and turned it into high fashion.
It was a man cap, only in black, brown and blue, and we realized it in more than 300 colors, and we proposed to women to start wearing it.
It's long been an iconic look, largely thanks to Robert De Niro, who sported a flat cap in The Godfather. These days, brands such as Stetson still play with its gangster connotations. But it's also been claimed by the fashion mainstream, thanks to labels like G-Star and Burberry. It's been worn by Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and Madonna. It's now a style staple all over the world, and it's become trendy again in Palermo, the capital of Sicily. Here, the Coppola was traditional headgear for centuries. The La Coppola Storta store is located in central Palermo, and its customers now include young, trendy men and women. That's largely thanks to Tindara Agnello. Her designs range from floral patterns to checked and striped.
We want to save the classic model of Coppola, typical Sicilian hats, but changing the style, the fabric, the material, using embroidery, many different fabric of unique piece, tapestry, and changing the style. We make a little revolution.
And they've done so by revamping the image of a hat that people have been associating with mafiosi since the 1930s. The hats sold by La Coppola Storta are made in a workshop that's located in a former mafia stronghold, half an hour's drive from Palermo. Tindara's father, Guido Agnello, was a pioneer of sorts, who believed that the flat cap no longer deserved its negative image.
You could no longer wear the Coppola with pride. It wasn't the traditional local look it used to be. It was no longer made and sold much in Sicily anymore. If you saw a Sicilian in a Coppola, then you knew he was a mafioso. The Coppola was a symbol of the mafia. We've given it a new image.
Production began in 1994. The process was divided into stages, carried out by local seamstresses such as Pina Ciulla, who began learning her craft at the age of 13. The company made it part of its mission to bring jobs to depressed regions where the mafia had long held sway.
I didn't have any experience in industrial production because there never used to be any work like this in the region before La Coppola Storta moved here. The company opened up a new world to me, a world I'd never known.
Production is still done by hand. Once the pattern has been cut, the separate pieces are sewn together, with each stitch carefully checked. Some of the work is done by seamstresses who work from home. The last step involves ironing the cap and attaching the signature button. The caps cost between 60 and 250 euros.
Today, the Coppola is a symbol of liberation, an emblem of a new Sicily that's changing and can be proud of its culture and history.
And this is what the face of that new Sicily looks like.
Well, he might not be a household name to everyone, but here in Germany he has a loyal following. Perry Rhodan, the hero of the longest-running sci-fi pulp series ever. 50 years ago, the first Perry Rhodan installment hit the newsstands, and for 70 pfennigs you could read about astronaut Perry's adventures in a seemingly endless parallel universe. Well, half a century on, the hero is still defending the galaxy.
Perry Rhodan is the series hero and protagonist. Mission Stardust is the first in the long-running series of pulp booklets. In it, Perry becomes the first man on the moon. While there, he comes face-to-face with an unknown and extremely intelligent species known as Archonides. With their help, he embarks on a voyage into the universe.
Perry Rhodan isn't the kind of rough and ready type you might expect. But over the course of his life, which spans millennia, he's become a cosmic human being looking for solutions. Someone who communicates. And most of all, someone who is aware of the wonders of the cosmos.
Walter Ernsting, alias Clark Dalton, and Carl Herbert Scheer created the hero's cosmos in the early 60s. They were inspired by the U.S. Apollo space program, but imagined what might have happened in the heavens long before the moon landing. It was the beginning of an endless universe filled with strange solar systems, planets, and creatures. It was also the start of a cult following.
If you read it for a few years, it's part of the family. Then you carry on reading it and go through the bad times with the series.
Raimund Peter reads the latest installment every week, just as he has been doing for more than 40 years. The Austrian is well versed in the ways of chaotarchs, superintelligences, and the polyport network.
The most interesting thing about the stories is the technology. I was always interested in the technology of the Perry Rhodan series, and that's why I wanted to find a way to represent this technology in models.
Raimund Peter spent 500 hours working on a model of one of Perry Rhodan's spaceships. It's made from a 1-meter diameter plexiglass ball, pieces of plastic, and electronic scrap. This fortress was made in close cooperation with the editors of the pulp booklets. It took 2 years to make, and when it was finished, it appeared in the latest booklet. A close relationship between the readers and the authors is typical for Perry Rhodan.
It was a good feeling to make something nobody else had ever made before, building a model that was then integrated into the current plot of the Perry Rhodan series.
The stories are not only successful in Germany, but in the Netherlands too. Over the past 5 decades, they have appeared in more than 20 countries. They're still on sale in Japan.
Speculating on how long Perry Rhodan will be around is like reading tea leaves. It's true that overall readers are getting older and that people are generally reading less. But Perry Rhodan still exists and still has a high circulation, and that guarantees his survival for a long time.
If that's true, then the immortal Perry Rhodan could continue to roam the universe for thousands of years.
Well, paper is a commodity that quickly ends up in the waste and sometimes even gets recycled, but it needn't just be turned into more of the same. In the search for new materials, more and more artists are discovering the merits of paper. A contemporary design fair in Paris is showing that paperwork can be enjoyable and durable.
These are modern paper products made by international designers trying to combine ecological awareness with the demands of a flexible lifestyle. Élise Fouin studied at the École Boulle Art School in Paris. The 31-year-old from France belongs to a new generation of furniture designers who specialize in the use of recycled materials, such as paper.
J'ai commencé à travailler le papier parce que j'ai eu la chance de visiter
I started working with paper because I had the chance to visit a big factory which recycled all kinds of waste paper. And I saw how pretty the pallets with the paper scraps were. It inspired me. At that moment, it became clear to me that paper has a real aesthetic power.
This is one of the young designer's creations. Ticket de Caisse is a table lamp manufactured from old receipt rolls. It's still a prototype.
These receipt rolls spiral out quite nicely. I fix the inside with a cardboard roll so it keeps its form, and afterwards I treated the whole thing with varnish. That's how I made the lamp.
Élise Fouin lives and works in Paris. She made this solid armchair from a single roll of paper. The seat has been varnished to protect it from dampness. Élise presented this lamp made of fireproof paper at a previous Salon du Meuble in Paris. Over the past 30 years, paper and cardboard have grown in importance as renewable materials. Susanne Schwarz-Rache is an expert on the processing of environmentally friendly materials for furniture making.
I think it's become established now, not viewed critically like back in the 1950s. New possibilities have emerged with new technologies to address individual customization. I think we'll see furniture made to order, just like books on demand. So why not furniture on demand too?
More and more, paper is being used in architecture and interior design. This is an office suite made of honeycomb cardboard in the Dutch city of Eindhoven. An Athens fashion boutique lined with cardboard. And the Japanese pavilion at Expo 2000 in Hanover.
I think ecological considerations will make using paper increasingly important. There are lots of intermediate materials around made of paper mixed with plastics and other materials. Not only as composite materials, but as real mixtures. The borders are fluid.
Due to innovations in the paper industry, the materials can be used in much more diverse ways. These are resin-soaked paper rolls used for making sturdy furniture. Newspaper cord for curtains and carpets. Or shredded strips of paper as a seat covering. Honeycomb paper, which can be pulled out into three-dimensional shapes, is also popular.
pense qu'à l'avenir, je ne sais pas si les gens vont forcément plus.
I wouldn't say that more paper furniture will be sold in the future.
Des meubles en papier, mais en tout cas, ce qui est sûr, c'est qu'ils vont plus s'intéresser aux.
But people will definitely become more interested in furniture, which is manufactured in an environmentally friendly and renewable way.
Par rapport à des démarches ou des process industriels qui respectent l'environnement.
Élise Fouin is presenting her latest ideas at this year's Design Fair in Paris.
Well, visitors to the German capital generally go home with very similar snapshots taken at all the well-known landmarks. But Thilo Wiebers and Andreas Böttger decided to offer amateur photographers special access to Off-Limits Berlin. Go-to-know tours take groups to places that are generally closed to the public, and they offer historical insights, tips on getting the best shots, and some unique images of a city that packs a real historical punch.
Uninhabited, run down, even creepy, and very photogenic. The morbid charm of the former tuberculosis sanatorium at Lake Grabo north of Berlin lures amateur photographers. Today they have the chance to roam freely around a site which is usually off-limits. Andreas Böttger and Thilo Wiebers of Berlin are behind these tours of otherwise inaccessible sites.
There are rotten windows everywhere. The plaster is flaking from the walls. You get the impression that time has stood still here. This building is like Sleeping Beauty. The special atmosphere is reflected in the photos. Here you can take photos you normally wouldn't think of.
Unusual perspectives. Unique images. And nobody walking through the shot.
You can go where there used to be people, but where you normally wouldn't go. And when the light shines through the broken glass, it's beautiful.
You can see where time has been eating at the building, at its interior. And that makes for really fantastic pictures.
From the late 19th century, the sanatorium outside Berlin treated wealthy tuberculosis patients. During the Cold War era, it was a Soviet military hospital. It's a place filled with the traces of history.
We've built up a pretty huge archive of places like this. We went to all of them, looked them over, took photos, did research and archived them. Visiting these places is so interesting, and we want to open them for other people.
Another fascinating and normally closed-off area is the Spreepark in southeast Berlin. Once the only amusement park in the former communist East Germany, it's been closed for 9 years. Fewer and fewer people came after the fall of the wall, and no investors stepped forward.
For me, it's a feeling that takes me back to my past. My grandma used to take me by the hand through the park, or I won topless Samantha Fox stickers at the shooting gallery. The atmosphere is completely different now. Today it's about the power of nature, reclaiming something which used to be dedicated to pure enjoyment.
The roller coaster hasn't run in a long time, but it's one of the main attractions for the amateur photographers. The rusty tracks or overgrown tunnel are exactly the images the visitors are looking for.
It's a surreal place with all these ruins of, well, leisure architecture and all the scenery. It's great scenery and adventure playground.
I think these pictures will be really interesting in 20 to 30 years, because by then all these places will be gone.
Whether motivated by historical interest or the desire for an unusual image, the visits are legal. Andreas Böttger and Thilo Wiebers get permits to visit their special secret places, and they have plenty of plans for the future.
We'd like to offer tours further afield, places which are known throughout the world, like the Cosmodrome in Baikonur, or Pripyat, the deserted city in Chernobyl. These are things we're interested in, and we think people would like to go there.
In any case, the tours in Berlin are very popular and booked out until the end of October by adventurous souls looking for that special picture off the beaten track.
Well, before we go, just a reminder that you can find our Euromaxx highlights on our website. And that is all for this time. So until we meet again, all the best from us here in Berlin. And thanks very much for watching. Tschüss.